All right. Well, welcome everybody. Hey, we're super excited to kick off and launch this 30-day Grow My Profit Challenge. I'm glad that all of you are here. If you haven't already, go ahead and put in the chat the city and state and where you're joining in from and what business that you're in. This is the launch, and this is our opportunity to kick off these next 5 weeks where we're going to be walking through the 6 steps that we have laid out as a process to grow your business, grow your profitability, grow revenue, and hopefully grow some fun that's alongside of your business and the growth that comes with it. And so just a quick introduction. Many of you already know Jeff and I. Jeff will be joining us here shortly. But Jeff and I grew up in Southern California. We grew up in an entrepreneurial home. Our dad owned an auto body shop. And Jeff, being the older brother, he was the first to join in the ranks and helping my dad. And then I came in as a teller. Yeah, many of you don't know what a teller is in an auto body shop, but I just told people to move while I swept. And my brother was the painter, and I did some odd jobs around there as well. But Jeff and I have always been entrepreneurial. We got into the world of sales right out of high school and college. Jeff went into business right away. I went on to college, played football, graduated from college, and then entered into the sales world. But we've always been close, even though we haven't always been in close proximity. I've been in the Midwest for the last 20 some odd years. Jeff's remained in Southern California, but we've always wanted to do business together. We've always been passionate about some similar things, but one of the things that we're the most passionate about is this idea of helping people to grow successful businesses. And we developed growmyprofit.com as a strategic consulting company to partner with entrepreneurs who wanted to scale their business. And that's hopefully the reason why you're here. We're all about the idea of growing sales, revenue, and profits, and people. Most importantly, we can't grow sales, revenue, and profits without growing people and growing leaders. And so we hope that you're ready to grow. And these are some of the things that when we first started Grow My Profit, we found that there were these commonalities that were amongst most of the business owners that we had met or interacted with that struggled, and some of the things that we struggled with. Lack of vision and motivation was number one. That was oftentimes the case while a lot of people lost their focus, they lost their vision, they lost their motivation because they didn't have a clear, compelling purpose, or they didn't have clarity on what they wanted to create, or they allowed fear and limiting beliefs to hold them back. We also found that inefficient marketing and low sales volume was a very common reasons of why businesses struggle to increase their profitability and to scale. And so we kind of laid out, here's some things that we could end up doing to help businesses to improve. And then the other areas are just low margins, high expenses. They've got a lot of wasted opportunity, missed opportunities, extra costs that weren't necessarily leading to profitable revenue. And they didn't oftentimes have enough value add to increase their prices so that they could get better margins on their business. And so that's what we hope to cover in this 30-day challenge, is to give you a dose of what it is that we've learned. And starting today with the idea of planning. We did do a bonus workshop on assessing your capacity to scale last week, and that's available for anybody that wants to have access to it. But we have our first step is assessing your capacity to scale, and it's really looking at what are the things that are potentially preventing you from scaling, and what are some of the things that could prevent you from scaling. If you don't know the answers to the 7 questions that we talked about in the assessing your capacity to scale workshop, some of the things that we talk about in the next 5 sessions may not make as much sense. So I would encourage you to go back and watch the first workshop if you'd like to gain more clarity on assessing your capacity to scale. I think that there's going to be plenty of takeaways from today and future sessions. So I definitely think that you're going to get a chance to learn something. And if you have comments or if you have questions, I would love to see the chat just blowing up. I'd love to see all of you contributing ideas and feedback. And if you have a question, put it in the chat, and I'll go and I'll stop and review the chat and ask for some feedback every so often, just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to contribute and that we're not going too fast. So please use the chat. And if there's something that's a takeaway or it's kind of an aha moment, I'd love to see you posting in the chat message that takeaway or that aha moment so that we can share. I love the quote that says, the experience of others compresses time. So if there's something that stood out to you that maybe somebody else missed or didn't jot it down, then you'd have an opportunity to share it as well. And speaking of that, jotting it down, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the captions just to make sure that we have the ability to pull all that together. So yeah, excited to get a chance to go through these different steps with all of you. So the third step is about marketing and lead generation. Fourth step is sales, improving your sales volume, your sales revenue, your sales team, your sales systems, leadership. And then the final one is operational systems and operational strategies to expand your operation while simplifying it and streamlining it so that you don't have scalability problems or you don't have drag on your organization. So those are our 6 steps that we're going to walk you through. What's involved in this 30-day challenge? If you haven't seen it already, the very first thing for everybody that participates in the 30-day challenge, they get an online business assessment. They get a business coaching and growth strategy session where we're going to walk through your business goals, your challenges, your barriers, and your opportunities. And we're going to give you some feedback on ways that we can end up helping you to grow over the next 30 days. And so if you want to schedule that time, we're going to give you instructions on how to do that today. And we'd love to do it sooner versus later. So book that session as soon as possible. And we'd love to give you some feedback. The Business Optimizer workbook, I did put this in the chat section. I'll put it in there again just to make sure that everybody has access to it. This is a tool that we're going to be going through during these next 5 weeks. So you're going to want to take a look at that workbook, and I'll walk through that with you. But this digital optimizer is a Microsoft Excel workbook. And I'm going to stop my screen share and just show you really quick what that looks like so that you can understand how to navigate it, because it is a technology tool and not everybody may have that same comfort with that tool. So when you go to the digital download, you can basically open up the document with the link that I provided, and it gives you instructions here on what to do. And again, this is just a free tool. It's not something that you have to be overly concerned with. If it doesn't work the way that you want it to work, don't be too concerned about it. But there are tabs down here at the bottom of the screen that you can see. Those tabs are how you will navigate through that business optimizer. And there's quite a few tabs. So you're going to want to take a look at that after this session and gain more familiarity with it. But the way that you're going to want to access it is, this is a read-only file. So the thing that I would recommend you doing is you click on this file and then go over here and say, make a copy. If you have a Gmail account or you have a Google Drive folder, you can just make a copy of that and you can add it to your individual drive, and you'll have an editable copy that you can make adjustments and customize to your personal preference. If you don't know how to use Google Drive and you don't know how to make a copy of it, the next thing to do would be to just download it as a Microsoft Excel document. If you don't have Excel and you don't know how to use Microsoft Excel, the next thing that you could do is you can download it as a PDF document. It won't be as user-friendly or interactive because it's an Excel spreadsheet, but you can download it as a PDF document and you can look at it and answer the questions, print it off if need be, or you can just have it open on your computer and you can open up a blank sheet of paper and write the answers down. I don't want you to get caught up on the technology of what you can't do. I would much rather have you be in a situation where you are learning how to use the system and go through the steps as we work through it together. And we can use some time during our one-on-one to go through this with you to make sure that you understand how to utilize the tool. But lots of really cool resources down here that you get a chance to leverage. And I'm not going to go through all of that in detail, but I wanted to make sure that you know that each one of these tabs down here and this little arrow will guide you through the different tabs that are available. And just think of this as like a workbook, like a virtual workbook that you would actually interact with as part of a seminar or something of that nature. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll answer those questions. Otherwise, we go good. Is everybody following along? Everybody knows what we're doing here. This is a good starting point when we're kicking off a business planning session, is making sure that we assess where you're at. This is just a simple self-analysis of where you are in the 6 steps. So if you give yourself, a grading scale of 0 to 100, 90 to 100 would be an A, 80 to 90 or 80 to 89 would be a B, 70 to 79 would be a C, 60 to 69 a D, 50 and below or 59 and below, you're giving yourself an F in that area. And I want to make sure that everybody understands when you assess yourself and you give yourself some low grades, you're not a bad person. It's just your current reality. It is what it is. So I don't want you to get down on yourself and go, "Oh, I'm terrible. I got so far to grow. I've got so far to go." It is what it is. And you can grow to a high score in a very short period of time if you just keep organizing your calendar around what matters most. And if you benefit or if you learn from the things that we're going to be talking about in this 30-day challenge, you can watch your score improved, significantly just in 30 days when you have a process or a track to follow and you've got a guide to guide you through the steps and you have some accountability. There's only one thing that people do predictably. This might be a jotter downer. So if you've navigated away, come back to the screen and jot this one down. There's only one thing that people do predictably, and that is they act unpredictable, especially business owners, because they have no boss. And so what we want to do is inside of the structure of this challenge is that we want to create an environment where you allow the challenge to become your boss, so to speak, because it's part of your mission to grow your business. And if you're going to be the one that's always in charge and you do unpredictable things because you're human, you're likely not going to have the same predictable growth than if you work alongside of a process that's predictably successful. Like I don't have to wonder if people are going to be successful if they take these steps, because these aren't my steps. I just took the steps that successful people have taken, that I've taken, that Jeff's taken, and I translated them into a process and a structure to give to you so that you could take them. So if you take these steps, you will find success. And part of your success may be that you don't have a good business plan. You don't have a good business model. You may have created something out of thin air and thought, this is a really good idea, but it may not be a very good business idea. It may be a nice hobby or a jobby, something that you get paid to do and you have fun doing, but it may not be a great business idea. And that doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you've successfully proven how things may not work. And that's a success. And if you look at that as a failure, then you just need to shift your perspective, because sometimes we need to fail at a business idea to find the business idea that actually works. And we're all about finding ideas that work. So this is the assessment. Don't overthink it. Just give yourself a basic score in each one of those areas based upon this definition over here to the right. And then we'll work based upon where it is that you are today, and we'll graduate you. You also get daily profit building tips inside the Facebook group and inside of the online learning management system we're going to give access to for all of the people that paid to be part of the challenge. We're going to give you access to some daily profit building tips that are going to help you to just get little bites of wisdom and little bite-sized strategies to help you to take actionable steps that are going to move you towards a more profitable business. We're also going to give you access to the online platform called Scale University. This is an online learning management system that we've organized all of our content into. And so we've got our community aspect, which acts like a social media platform. It's also got a classroom with different courses in there. So we've got our full course that is all of our 6 steps that you can click on this and open it up, and it breaks down all of the 6 steps. And there's text and there's videos and there's downloadable worksheets at the bottom of the individual pages. You can go through this at your own pace. This is something that we're going to go through as part of the 30-day challenge, but obviously with just 2 hours per session, we're not going to be able to go through absolutely everything. That's something that you can go through as you have a desire to do so, and you can do it at your own pace. But as I said, there are lots of different courses. We have interviews with other entrepreneurs. We've interviewed lots of successful entrepreneurs and experts. You can download or you can watch those videos. I also did a course and provided you a copy of my Live an Extraordinary Life book and the Extraordinary Life Planner. And then you're going to have access to the 30-day challenge, and all of the recordings and all of the PowerPoints and things of that nature will be in here. So all of this is available to those of you that have registered and paid to be part of the challenge. If you're just watching this video as a guest or as a visitor, you would need to pay the $97 to basically access the online learning management system. We're giving access to our Facebook group members and some distinguished guests the opportunity to just participate in the Zoom sessions. But if you'd like to really go deep and be involved in the online learning management system, we're just asking you pay the $97 fee. And it's just a 30-day subscription. And if you decide that you don't want to be a part of it 30 days from now, you can cancel at any time. It's not hard. You just basically say, I no longer want to have access to the content. But we want to add value to you. And for $97 a month, we feel like that we can really help you to grow your profit. And if it's not valuable to you, by all means, definitely cancel. The 6 2-hour weekly Zoom workshops are going to be every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Pacific, and all of them will be recorded and all of them will be posted inside the website. Last week, we talked about the assessing your capacity to scale, and we answered these 7 questions. Today, we're going to be answering these questions. Next week, we're going to be focusing in on marketing and lead generation, which is a very popular topic, and we're going to answer these questions here. And then we're going to do sales growth on the 15th, and we're going to talk about how to build your sales systems and your sales processes to make sure that you've got good sales systems to move people from being an interested candidate to an actual paying client and delivering a raving fan experience so that you can get good quality referrals and opportunities. The week of the 22nd, we're going to talk about leadership habits. When you grow a business, it's new level, new devil. You're going to have to learn new leadership habits if you want to grow that business and have opportunities to continue to scale. Otherwise, you're going to hit a leadership ceiling, and it's called the ceiling of complexity. And you're going to bump your head up against that leadership ceiling if you don't have the habits and skill sets to scale the business beyond who you have been. You have to keep growing personally and professionally if you want your business to continue to thrive and to grow. And then the final session will be on improving your systems. So lots of questions are going to be answered in the next 30 days. And I'm super excited to be in that position to help you. I'm excited you're going to be part of the community, and you're going to be interacting with each other. There's going to be opportunities where you can connect online with people for networking and for referrals, or if there's some business opportunities, or if there's some interest between each other. Maybe there's an interest that you have between each other's businesses and what you offer for services. And we would encourage that. What we don't encourage is selling. We don't want you to be in a position where you're selling one another or, being a pest. If a person is interested and they reach out, by all means, add value to each other. But we want to be in the relationship asset business. We want to be building value into people. And so we are encouraging our members to don't get weird, don't be weird, just add value to one another. And when you add value to one another, you'll attract people to want to know more about what you do. And we're going to give away a prize. We're going to give away a prize by not only recognizing the people that are the most active in the community, the ones that are sharing and liking and commenting and all those things. That's all tracked inside of the learning management system. And it basically gives you levels of access, and it gives you points every time that you engage in the community. So if you want to be one of the recognized leaders in the leaderboard, we're going to encourage you to participate in the online platform and to be present here at the Zoom meetings, because we're going to be recognizing online attendance as being part of the overall process. And then we're going to give a grand prize winner access to our upcoming mastermind event at no cost to them. All right. So that is the challenge details and the welcome. And let's go ahead and get things kicked off and talk a little bit about refining your business plan. So I want to stop for just a moment and I want to go around the room. And I'd love to just get one question from those that are live on this particular session. So Sarah, I see you up in the left-hand corner. What is the one question that you would love to get answered about business planning today?
Ooh, narrowing it down to one. I would say, I don't know if it'll be answered today, but what I loved, I heard you speaking about previously, was having a business plan or writing a business plan. I have never written a business plan before. I've always seen it as a very complicated thing, and I could see how you are making it much simpler. And so that would be something I would like to work on at some point.
Right. Yep. And the complexity is the the fact that it seems so complex. It becomes about abdication. We abdicate our responsibilities in business planning because it just seems too complex. But when it's broken down to simple tactics or strategies, then we oftentimes are attracted to it. So good to hear. Joe, how about you? What's the one thing that you would love to learn about in regards to business planning or refining about?
I mean, for me, it's kind of like fine tuning the marketing piece and the sales piece. So I'm trying to move out of being, the one driving everything, to more of a mentorship role, and ultimately hiring salespeople and that sort of thing.
Cool. Building a business that works because the business works. I love it.
Yeah.
How about you, Augustine?
Yeah, for me, it's I would say just building the processes for building a sales team. I think it's really kind of where I'm at. I want to say and revisiting the vision part of the plan, because it's I think if I can clarify my why even better, I think it'll give me that push that I need to push through the hard days, right? So
Great. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that today. So sales and marketing, we'll talk a little bit more about those in depth later, but that'll be definitely part of our process. How about you, Fern? What's the question you'd love to get answered?
Sorry, I couldn't get myself unmuted. Okay, so I want to offer the service I'm trying to offer. I don't want to charge the actual clients for, because the people I deal with are people who, like, have aged out of foster care or come from a domestic violence background. So I'm looking at strategies that could help pay me, but by making it where I can offer that to them without charging.
Yeah. So soliciting potential donations or sponsors and things of that nature, I would assume.
Yes.
Okay, good. And Marshall, what would you say yours is, your question or anything specific?
How to have more hours in the day. How to identify what things are very necessary, what things are sort of semi-necessary, and making sure that I'm focusing in on the things that will actually grow and scale my business, and then letting the other things that might be important, but maybe someone else can do them, or maybe maybe I find different times to do them so that I don't feel frazzled all the time.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Well, I Sue is same, but my day business jobby is as a professional ghostwriter, writing educational email courses. I'm refining my marketing systems and would love to learn more about sales and marketing. Good. All right. Well, thanks, Sue. So let's just keep moving along with our process here and just jump into the whole business planning aspect. So we use this analogy about, kind of climbing the mountain of success in business. it's a seasonal thing, right? Sometimes the weather's getting really bad. There's certain seasons where businesses are more challenging to grow and scale. And then there's obviously a trail, there's a path, there's proven success. Most businesses have a path that's already been laid out. You don't have to reinvent the path. There are some businesses that you may choose to do that with, but success leaves clues. So we're going to focus on the clues, and then we'll get innovative and creative with those businesses that have to get a little bit more creative. So before we jump into the business plan, I want to just briefly touch on the fact that my experience is that if you develop a business plan before you develop your own personal life plan, chances are that the business will run your life rather than you running your life, which is fueled by your business, if that makes sense. So the life plan is one of the documents or one of the tabs inside of the Business Optimizer workbook. And it's just simply a way for you to collect the different things that you'd like to be, do, and have in different categories, and then establishing some due dates with that. And what I found in this process of just collecting what's inside of our head of things that we want to be, do, and have from a personal standpoint can put purpose and mission into the actual process of a business plan, because sometimes the business can become the purpose, which then sucks all of the life out of the entrepreneur. And they say that entrepreneurs only work half days. Pick any 12 hours you choose. Is that sometimes the dream of the business becomes the nightmare of the business, or the nightmare of the life. And many people will end up going through tragedy with family, health, other things, because they had a business dream or they had a business vision, but they never had the priorities of their life. And I think that it's important to understand, what are the big rocks of things that you'd like to be, do, and have from a life perspective, and making sure that those are as a part of your overall plan so that your business fuels your life plan and not the other way around, that your life doesn't fuel your business plan. And it's up to you to decide whether or not that's something that you want to do. And we don't have time during this session to go through every aspect of this. But, if you have dreams, visions, ideas, goals, aspirations, whatever language you want to use around your dreams or goals for the future, I would encourage you to write those down, even if they're not completely descriptive of everything, just utilizing some basic language to just clarify some things that are really important to you, that you'd really like to be, do, and have in each of these categories. You don't have to fill up every line. This is just a basic structure to put on one page the things that are the most important to you. And then you can organize them by due date or by priority. Priority A is something that I absolutely have to do this before I die. This is something that's extremely important to me. So family and relationship goals. I personally want to be married to the same person my entire life. So I want to make sure that I am investing time into that relationship. I don't want that to be compromised because of my business vision or my business goals. I want to have a good relationship with my kids. I'm going to be a grandfather in the next 5 months. I want to be, kind of a superhero of a dad and a superhero as a grandparent. I want to be a superhero as a husband. I want to be healthy. I don't want to be giving up my health to gain my wealth. I want to be balanced as much as I can be balanced. And balance doesn't mean equal. So I don't spend equal amount of time in my physical health, but I'm making it a priority so that that becomes my most important client, or one of my most important clients. So if you think about, every one of us has customers and clients. If these 8 categories represented your top 8 clients, your very best 8 clients, you would treat these with more priority than if you didn't have these written down and you went out there and you basically found your top 8 clients. So taking off screen share for just a moment here, just think about, Sarah, your top 8 paying clients. They're important to you, right? They're valuable to you. And you're oftentimes going to be attentive to their needs because they're a paying client. Joe, your top referring partners, you're going to be very attentive to them. And what I find is that a lot of business owners will allow things to basically get set to the side that are important to them because they're constantly trying to get ahead in their business life, that they just are constantly making compromises. And our families and our friends and our health can be flexible, but it's not optional. It's just not in a position where we're going to end up having, a lot of time to just keep procrastinating and say, yeah, but in the future, next year, next year, next year. Too many tomorrows, and all you'll end up with is a bunch of empty yesterdays, right? I mean, you don't want to have too many tomorrows and procrastination. Yes, delay things. There's going to be times you're going to need to make sacrifices, but it's going to be important for you to know what sacrifices are okay and what sacrifices are not okay. So that's the life plan piece. And again, take some time with that and spend some more time, picking out some things that are important to you. And then when we do your personal session, we can definitely talk to you a little bit more about that in detail. This is a very popular visual. Many of you have seen it and you've heard it, but it's really important for you to understand there's a decision to be made here. And it may not be today that you make your decision, but each one of these quadrants has a list of advantages and disadvantages. And this is from Rich Dad Poor Dad's cash flow quadrant, where Robert Kiyosaki talks about the different areas that you can generate income. And most entrepreneurs have their foot in multiple different quadrants. They're not all in one quadrant. They're usually in different quadrants. Maybe sometimes if they had 4 legs, they'd be in all 4. But it's important for you to know which quadrant you want to be in. So an employee is obviously not a self-employed person. This is somebody that has a boss that tells them what to do and how to do it, and they pay them a wage, and they basically lease hours from you. Now, you could still be the CEO of you, and you can basically choose where you go to work, just like you can choose what clients you want to serve as a self-employed or business owner. You still have choices. You still live in America. It's not a communist or socialist society, but you need to understand that there's a certain benefit and disadvantage of having an E-quadrant life. There's also a different set of advantages and disadvantages for being self-employed. And if you own your job, this is what we would consider to be somewhat of a lifestyle business. The lifestyle that you create, you could make a very good income in being self-employed. You could make millions of dollars and be self-employed. The difference from this S quadrant to the B quadrant is when you step from being a daily participant in the organizational chart to being a shareholder or an owner of a business, where the business works because the business model works, not because you work all the time. So this is where income does not depend on active work. So 95% of your wealth comes from the work of other people. You're leveraging products, programs, and systems to build a business that produces an income that doesn't necessarily require your presence to be there, or at least less than 5%. Here is 95% of the population is in the self-employed quadrant, or 95% of the self-employed business owners are oftentimes in that self-employed quadrant, where they're demanded to be involved in their business. And the goal that Jeff and I want to do is we want to move people from, maybe they've got a part-time job or they've got a full-time job, and then they've got a business that they want to scale. We want to move them from E to S, S to B, and B to I. I is where your investments earn your income. And Marshall would be a good person to talk about that, because that's what he does for a living, is he helps people to manage their investments. But being in the I quadrant or being in the B quadrant, sometimes you may be in both, is that's where you're able to pay for all of your expenses from the assets that you own, whether that be businesses, stocks and mutual funds, real estate, Bitcoin, you name it. You have wealth that's producing the income that you desire. And again, advantages and disadvantages. And we can talk through this a little bit more in your personal session. But this is one of those things where you should make a decision of which one of these quadrants are best fit for you, because this quadrant of being a business owner is going to require certain sacrifices. This S quadrant, it has sacrifices. This I, it has sacrifices. And based upon the sacrifices that you're willing to accept, will dictate whether or not that you will grow this business. You could say all day long you want to be a business owner and be in the business quadrant, but if you don't let go of responsibilities, and I'll have Jeff talk about this in a little bit, but if you're not willing to let go and have other people do things, and they may not be as good as you, but if you don't let them go, you're going to be stuck in this S quadrant, and there's going to be certain disadvantages that you have to accept because you have not chosen to move to this B quadrant. You can't be in the S quadrant and want the advantages of the B quadrant, or be upset that you don't have the advantages of the B quadrant, because you have to be willing to accept both the advantages and disadvantages. So, any questions on the cash flow quadrant, or any feedback on it? Otherwise, I'm going to have Jeff talk about it in just a moment. So any questions on the cash flow quadrant? Augustine's goal right now is to move to B quadrant. Very good.
Jeff, really quickly on that, so I think that for me, again, that's the challenge. So I'm starting to have like my office assistant, and she's gone through training and everything. And you're absolutely right. I think that one of the fears that I had was that the customer experience was going to not be the same. That was kind of my thing. Like, hey, I want to make sure that they're serving the client the same way. But I'm realizing that as we provided the training for how they're supposed to continue giving that client experience, I feel better now that they may do it differently. Like you said, they may not do it like I do it, but I'm feeling more comfortable now that we're delegating that somewhat. So yeah. So I guess the question was just going to be that it's how to continue to do that, because with the sales team, that's kind of my challenge now where I'm going. So yeah. How to.
Jeff, you want to talk about that and just speak to that transition and I know you have a good story about that, going from being self-employed to business owner and outsourcing and hiring people?
Yeah, let me first say that I had this flashback. I think I was 28 years old. I was flying to your house in Iowa, and I had just bought that book. And I remember we did a motorcycle ride on the Harleys, I think Iowa to South Dakota or something. That was the only thing that we really did. The rest of the time I was in my room reading that book, just fascinated. I kept coming out, I think, and talking, dude, you won't believe what he just said about this. I mean, it just like enlightened me and opened up my mind to what my problem was. I want to buy a Ferrari and they're $300,000, and I'm making $300,000 a year as a VP of sales when I was 28 years old. I had a huge W-2 income back in the 90s, and I'm young, and everybody's telling me how good I'm doing, but after taxes, take home 190, and I'm going to buy a $300,000 car. How's that going to work? And it just kind of like opened up my mind to, wow, I've got to get leverage on people. I've got to duplicate myself. If I can't figure out how to do that, I'm a failure. I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to hit my goals. So I'll tell you, when I came back, I don't know, I think it was like a year later, I quit my $300,000 a year job with a wife that didn't work and 4 kids at home. I was 29 years old. Dude, it was so scary. And I quit and borrowed 12 grand a month to pay my bills. I remember these numbers. I went from 300 grand a month to 144. Probably didn't pay my taxes the next year just to cover my nut, and went out to start building a business and moved from the E quadrant. I don't know if I was ever in the S quadrant. I was an employee and I went to like, I'm building a business. I guess the first year of my ad agency, when I was a one-man band, one-man operation, I'm doing everything. I'm selling, I'm processing orders, I'm doing the accounting. So yeah, I guess I was self-employed for a year, and I was like, I do not want to stay in this. I know to build a big business and make a lot of money, I got to duplicate myself. So I sold $1 million worth of junk mail the first year I was open, and I made 150 grand self-employed. So what I did is I hired 2 salespeople that could do 500,000 each. They were half as good as I was, and I hired 2, and I replaced And then I hired 5 and then 10 and then 20 and then 30 and 40, and revenue just skyrocketed. All I had to do was duplicate myself. But it came from that book, which is crazy to have that mindset. And I couldn't even understand the I quadrant. Someday I'll sell a business and have all this money. I mean, we would all love to have 100 million, earning 10%, get a $10 million check every year and not have to work. That's like the ultimate. I'm not quite there yet, but start to become an investor. So that cash flow quadrant and the different, rich dad, poor dad, that was just a huge deal for me. I got it. It was so loud and clear that I can never do this as a highly paid W-2 employee. I got to duplicate myself and build a pretty big business, like 50 people, 60, 70. And that's what I did like 3 times after that. So anyways, what Augustine just said about, you got to duplicate yourself. There you go. Rich dad,
Yeah, Marshall's got it.
yeah, such a power. It's in my shelves here, bookshelf. Probably need to break it out again and learn that I quadrant a little better. I have some money and I'm not that great of an investor. Just because you're a good CEO and sales manager and salesperson and business owner, that skill doesn't necessarily transfer over I lost a lot of money in the last 2-3 years with some cash, and I'm like, I'm not very good at this. I got a lot to learn in that area, but
Joe makes a comment in the chat that he feels like he's mastered the self-employed quadrant, but he feels like he needs to continue to master it so that he can create a duplicatable system before he can jump to the B quadrant. I'd like to get Jeff's thoughts on this, but I'm not so sure that you can completely master the S quadrant and then jump to the B quadrant. I think that you have to be willing to jump. You have to be willing to accept some of the pain, some of the challenges, and some of the things that, go with the challenges of just learning. Because you'll never, what's that Chinese proverb that says, first, or I hear and I forget, I see and I believe, I do and I understand. So to some extent, I think you can study it, you can hear it, you can watch it, you can hear us talking about it, but until you actually do it, you'll never fully understand it. And so, Jeff had just went to a SaaS conference, and he ended up talking to one of the businesses there. What was the name, Jeff?
Retention.com, the guy cornered in the parking lot.
No,
Retention.com or iContact, the big sales, or Zoom Info. I talked
Zoom
to
Info, the Zoom Info one. This guy went to work at the age of 28 on building a business. There was a SaaS-based business, sales or software as a service, and his business is now worth, what is it now, like 30 billion or something?
$30 billion public.
$30 billion with a B. He went and studied the business owner quadrant. He didn't study self-employed quadrant. He studied business owner. And like Jeff just talked about, is that he had money from being in the business owner quadrant, and he had an 8-figure exit 3 years ago where he got a lot of money for being good at the business owner quadrant. That didn't make him good at the I quadrant. And he ended up going through the Success University, right? By basically finding some investments that didn't perform well. And now he got a great education of what not to do going forward. Now he could have done that, slowly learning and mastering and all the principles of financial investing and all that other real estate. And a lot of the things were market driven, but he had to just go do it. Now he's got a different level of experience and expertise than if he was just to go out there and learn and watch. I just put the link in the chat message for those of you that want to take a look at the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I got a PDF download of it, and you can obviously go out there and buy it on Amazon. It's a 25-year-old book, so I'm not sharing new information or any specific information that's just readily available. I found it online, so I saved it to my hard drive. But let's jump in to talk a little bit more about business planning. So there's really 5 major components of a business plan, and this is oftentimes what turns people off because it becomes a little bit more technical, but we're going to simplify it here in this next 30 minutes and just talk about how to take some of these concepts and create them for your own individual business. So mission, vision, financial, marketing, operations are the big rocks inside of a business plan. And, Jeff can talk about this a little bit more later, but, the idea of growing 2 to 10x in the next 3 to 5 years is that there's a process there. It's not an event. You don't just do it one day in a business planning workshop. You do it over time and you refine the process, you refine the plan over time. But if you have a plan to grow to a specific number in revenue, then you can break it down into steps, and you can break down the profit growth by just taking it one step at a time. So we talked about the idea of assessing where you are in the different 6 steps. Now that we've done that, we can jump right into the idea of creating a mission statement. And again, mission statements are not necessarily the thing that is this big plaque on the wall. The mission statement is something that I like to call it, it's what you aim to achieve that's not quantifiable, which is different than a vision statement. A vision statement is actually something like it's a clear, compelling vision of something that you want in the future. Like it's a vision that you can actually see and you can feel what it would feel like, and you could actually describe it. Where the mission is something that never is accomplished. It's why you do what you do. It's not what you want to do, it's the why behind the try. And if you can become a mission-minded person, you can get out of the measurement mindset. Measurement's important, but if you're all measurement and no mission, you're probably going to get exasperated by the things that you encounter on the journey to build your business. But if you can become a mission-minded person who learns to measure progress using the financial scorecard as a concept, which Jeff will talk about in a moment, you can be both on mission and measuring whether that mission is being accomplished, because you're going to be able to break it down into actual milestones and metrics that are going to help you to determine, are we doing what we want to do, and are we on track to accomplishing the outcome that we desire, even if it's not a quantifiable mission. And I'll just give you some examples. Like JetBlue, their mission statement is not this, page-long deal that they used to be. It's to inspire humanity, both in air and on the ground. Starbucks is to contribute positively to our communities and our environment. Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. TED, 2 words, spread ideas. LinkedIn, to connect the world's professional to make them more productive and successful. PayPal, to build the web's most convenient, secure, cost-effective payment solution. Amazon, a little bit longer, to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, where customers can find and discover anything they want to buy online, and endeavors to offer its customers to lowest possible prices. Nike, bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world, and the asterisk is, if you have a body, you're an athlete. Nordstrom, to give customers the most compelling shopping experience possible. And if you've ever been to Nordstrom, you have experienced that. Patagonia, build the best products, cause no unnecessary harm, use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. So theirs is taking on a little bit more of a cause. So what is the mission that you have? And there's a document inside of Business Optimizer, and it has 15 different questions in there. If you want to look at those questions while I chat with Jeff a little bit about this, you're more than welcome to work alongside of our conversation. But what we're looking to create is we're looking to create one simple sentence, one statement that's not quantifiable. It's just why you do what you do. What is the purpose behind it? And this is something that's a process, and you may be refining it over the next 30 days or the next three months. It might not be something that just comes out at you, but if you could say, why you do what you do, how would you respond to that? And I would say, for me personally, I grew up in an entrepreneurial home, and when we know what it's like to struggle when a business isn't thriving. And the reason why Jeff and I are doing and building Grow My Profit is not only do we have a big vision of what we want to accomplish, but we have a big drive to see more entrepreneurial, living the American dream, or living the dream, I guess, for the whole world, to have a process that's predictable, where they're no longer guessing. If we can end up creating more harmony, that one of the number one reasons for divorce in America is finances. Sometimes an extra $500 or $1,000 could save a marriage. if they just weren't short $500 to $1,000 a month. We want to help create integrated entrepreneurs where they're both tied into their personal life and they're thriving in their personal life, but they're also thriving in their business opportunities. And they're creating great change in the world by the work that they're doing. And work, as much as it's a 4-letter word, we don't think that it's a negative 4-letter word. People oftentimes think of work as being negative, but we think that work is actually a positive. It actually has got a lot of benefits to it. So our why, or our mission behind the work that we do at Grow My Profit, is that we want to transform the lives of entrepreneurs and leaders and really transform their businesses so that they can create a huge impact in the world. And that'll never end. We're going to get up every day going to work with the mission of transforming the lives of the people that we get a chance to encounter. And that'll be one of the reasons of why we keep doing what we're doing, even though we come against challenges and barriers and opportunities. But Jeff, I know that mission statements have never been your favorite thing growing your businesses, but what would you say is the captivating purpose around clarifying a mission that kind of gets you going in the morning or gets you going through a difficult time? Because I know you've been through some difficult times as an entrepreneur. What's the thing that drives you to get up and keep going?
I just love growth. I like to grow things. I get a lot of satisfaction because when I grow things, there's a lot of people on the team that end up making a lot of money. So it's fun when I W-2'd my top salesperson for $3.2 million. $3.2 million as a W-2 sales rep. Unbelievable, right? And he was making 80 grand a year, 7 years prior when he went to work for me. And he goes, Jeff, do you think I could make like 100 or 200,000? I go, your income's unlimited if you really want to put the time in. And 7 years later, 3.2 million, he wanted to buy a house. He wanted a BMW 5 Series and he paid off the house. He bought a house for 500 grand, paid it off. Now it's worth $1 million. He's had 3 or 4 BMWs since that time. So I get excited about just the team and the growth and just to see, people make more money. I mean, it was a lot of fun with all those, employees and, everybody in the company was on some sort of bonus program. If the company had big revenue and big profit, they made more money. Some of them made $30,000 salaries and $40,000 in commissions, like the receptionist. I had the receptionist on a bonus plan based on the company's revenue. So I don't know. I just love growth. I love to drive revenue. I think it's fun to just get bigger and see people get, blessed along the way and, help enough other people, you're going to hit your goals, kind of a Zig Ziglar thing. So I believe in that. So the mission was just, growing something and having people grow up alongside of me, I guess.
And these questions that you answer with your own answers, they will help you to start to shape that mission statement. And you can ask for perspective from family and friends if you're open and curious and want their impact. But there's just an opportunity here to kind of get out what's inside in your head, or maybe things that you haven't even been thinking about. But when you can become a mission-minded entrepreneur, you will go through walls. I mean, you'll break through so many barriers, you'll overcome so many hurdles and obstacles along the way, because you see this as something bigger than just profit. And, some people say people over profit. Well, yes. I mean, if there's an opportunity for you to make a huge impact on people and you can make a huge income and profit, why not have both? It's not an either or. You can actually have both, but connecting your business to a mission that's not quantifiable, that's something that you continue to strive for, can sometimes keep you overcoming some big challenges. The next part of the business plan is the vision statement. And the vision statement, I love Henry David Thoreau's quote when he says, "Have you built your castles in the sky? Good, that's where they should be. Now build the foundations underneath them." And Augustine talked about this when we first started off about, getting help with the vision statement. A lot of people didn't go to Vision Casting 101 or Vision Casting 401 in high school or college. Sometimes people actually have a very negative thought process about what the idea is about dreaming big. I mean, when you have a vision of this castle right here on top of this mountain, you have an impression that you have about that castle. I don't know if that just seems like it's too much. It sounds like it looks like it's a waste of finances. That money should have been donated to a church, or that money should have been donated to the poor. You've got your own implanted and imprinted belief system about what it is that has been been put in front of you. And you may be struggling with some of those thought processes that were given to you when you were younger. And so the idea of actually having inspired beliefs of what a vision could be if your business was to work out the way that you wanted it to be. So casting a bigger vision, there's a document inside the Business Optimizer. It has 15 different questions to kind of get you thinking about, where do you want to see your business in the next 5 years? What is it that you want to do with your products and your services? And I want you to go through this exercise with an open mind. Don't think about just reality. Don't think about limitations around funding. But if you could really do what you wanted to do, and you could have what you wanted to have, you could be what you wanted to be from a company perspective, what would you be, do, and have? Go through these 15 questions and answer those questions as openly as you'd like to answer them. You don't have to share this information with anybody. But if you were to answer these questions without any fear, without any limitation, without any restraint, what would be your answers to these questions? And then when you start to see those answers begin to formulate, then you can translate these answers into a vision statement. And this vision statement is really, and Jeff can talk about this as well, this vision statement is what you want to share with people when you're talking about your business. You want to be able to share with people what you're excited to create. You don't want to necessarily tell them what you're doing right now. You want to tell them why you're doing it, the mission, and you want to talk to them about what it is that you're going to create. Because when you share that story of what it is that you're building and what you're doing and why you're doing it, you're going to attract people to want to be a part of what it is that you're doing, because most people don't have this capacity to dream. So, Jeff, when you've gone out there and recruited salespeople, or when you've brought on staff members, I mean, you've transferred your vision for the future to those people. What is it about a vision that attracts people to want to be a part of something bigger than themselves?
I think if you have a vision, let's just say thinking back 10 years ago when I started my company, right? Like my vision is this company is going to do 10 million in revenue and make $2 million, and I'm going to sell it for 5 times multiple for $10 million. Crystal clear. From the day I started, that was the plan. I want to sell a business. I want to have an exit. So I had this vision of getting to that number. And then I reverse engineered all the math. I knew exactly what I needed to get there. Average sales rep sells 500,000 a year. I need 20 sales reps, right? So I had the whole vision. So when I interview people, I go, hey, here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan to get there. Do you want to be part of this plan? It's fun. We're good to our employees. You're going to make a lot of money. So it's pretty simple to like hire. I think people do want to know that they're working someplace where the CEO or the founder has a plan, you know? And as far as, vision, without vision, the people perish, you hear, the Proverbs, the Bible, and you're like, yeah, that's kind of important, but what is it exactly? And something I was just thinking about, I'm in a CEO group with 14 CEOs, and we took a test about a year ago. Are you a visionary CEO or are you an implementer? We take a test and there's 14 of us in the room, and I'm going to say 6 of them were visionary. They're very good at vision, casting the goal or the dream, let's say. 6 of them were implementers, so that's 12. 2 of us, me and one other guy, were both. So it's I guess it's pretty rare to get both, like 50-50. Like I have a vision of $10 million, but deep down, I feel like I'm more of an implementer. Here's how we're going to get there, and I'm unstoppable. I'm going to work, and we're going to hit this number, and I don't care what you say. Take away all the excuses. I feel like I'm more of an implementer, but I was 50-50, and I had an 8-figure exit. The other guy in the room that was 50-50, both visionary and implementer, sold his business for $440 million, a big 9-figure exit, sitting next to me. And I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But the whole reason we went through this drill is to find out if you're a visionary CEO, you better hire an implementer. Your COO, your VP of sales, better do the part that you're not good at. If you're an implementer, with no vision, you better get a visionary CEO. And it's really interesting to fill that gap and to understand who you are. It's a good test. I don't even remember who did the test, but it was fascinating just to learn about yourself. I didn't know. I would have guessed I'm like a 90% implementer, 10% vision, but I came out like 50-50. And I guess I didn't really have anybody on my team that was doing either one. I mean, I hired 10 sales managers. I fired 8 of them. Nobody could do the job. They're just lazy. They don't want to implement. Here's the goal. Go get this done. You go to the end of the week. Did you get it done? No. Fire. I had a hard time finding an implementer, so I did a lot myself. I wouldn't suggest doing that. I worked 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. I worked pretty hard doing it, but I started finding I had actually better luck with the salespeople that were on board for the vision because they had an income goal. The managers, there's a reason why they took the management position and not sales. My top salesman's making $3 million a year. My manager's making 200,000. I don't know. Managers are sales managers, hard role to find. So I kind of took that role and I did a lot of it, but within reason. I don't mind doing it. It's getting me to my goal. So I probably need a lesson in hiring leadership. I didn't find a lot of great leaders, a lot of reasons. I come up with a lot of excuses for that. But anyway, so vision versus implementer. I don't know. That's what I thought of when I saw that vision slide. You got to have a vision of where you're going, and you got to paint the picture of how the heck you're going to get there. If you don't have a plan, nobody else does. Everybody's just running and doing the best I can. It's like ridiculous without a goal. We got to do 1,000 presentations this year. Divide by 12, that's, 90 a month. And 9 new clients every month is going to get us to our goal. Why did you only sell 1 new client? Your quota is 4, and you're holding people to an account. But I've got the notes. I've got a simple Excel spreadsheet, nothing too complicated. Just here's the numbers, reverse engineer that. I don't know. I learned that very young, and that worked in all 3 of my businesses that I grew from 0 to 10, 20, 40 million. Just, reverse engineering the plan. How are we going to get there? And then hold people accountable to do that freaking job every week. And wasn't that difficult? Just took a little time, We hit 20 million in revenue and $4 million in profit and had a big 8-figure exit. So I exceeded my goal. It took twice as long. I thought I could do it in 5 years. I got there in 6 years, and then the market fell apart and I lost half my business and had to go back to the drawing board and rebuild. But we built to double what the goal was, 20 million, and making 4 million, got a nice exit. So anyways, I don't know if that
Yeah, that's
helped.
great. Well, I find that the entrepreneurs are typically they're either farsighted or they're nearsighted. Farsighted is nearsighted, you can't see far. Farsighted, you can't see near, right? And you need bifocals or you need glasses to be able to help you to focus and help. And again, if you are somebody that struggles with seeing far away, if you're nearsighted, you can see things that are close to you, but you can't see far away, then that's where you need to bring in some assistance. And that's where bringing in a coach or a guide or a consultant can end up helping you to clarify that vision for the future. But if you are farsighted and you can see the future and it's so crystal clear, but you can't see the short-term path to get you to where you want to go, then you're going to need that person that's more of the implementer. Here's the steps. We got to take these steps to get to where you want to go. And that's where you can outsource to a third party. You don't necessarily have to bring on a staff member right out of the gates. You can start utilizing third party or fractional services. That's one of the things that Jeff and I do is that we come in on a fractional level and we partner with businesses that want to scale so that we can help them to do it without having to go out there and onboard and take on a big expense of a third party or bringing on another employee. So we talked about life plan, we talked about mission, we talked about vision, and now we're going to talk about time. So this is one of, go ahead.
Just real quick, I was thinking about, like, if you look at some of the most successful CEOs that built the biggest companies in the world, I mean, I've studied Steve Jobs, visionary, implementer, both. Elon Musk, huge vision, but dear God, implementer. A friend of mine works for him, and he's been in manager meetings where Elon Musk comes in and just rails him for not moving the ball forward. I'm trying to retire on Mars. If you guys don't get this done, I'm going to die before I can retire on Mars. Dude, he's serious about that. Kind of crazy, I think. Elon, crazy, but vision, implementer, Amazon, Jeff Bezos. If you look at that guy, look at his old desk when he started Amazon, he was implementing. taping up boxes, shipping. You're like, really? But vision, man, that guy had vision. So, but not everybody has that. I think that's like filling that other role. If you're trying to go from $1 million in revenue to, 100 million, you might be able to take it from 1 million to 3, which only half the side of it. But anyways, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, great insight. So as we move into the next area of planning, this isn't necessarily a business plan issue, but it is a overall plan issue. And that's the idea of looking at your time. And, I started this particular time blocking at 5 a.m., but your day may not start until 7 or 9 or whatever the time period. But we all have 168 hours in a week. And typically 6 to 8 hours of every night is going to be towards rest and recuperation and sleep. So all the other times are available to do the things that are most important to you. So this is kind of a blank canvas, but if you were to design your perfect week to grow your sales, revenue, profit, and business, how would you organize your week? Where would you spend your time? Where is your time needing to be spent or invested to grow sales, revenue, profit, and business? And many people don't have a good plan for their time, so they oftentimes get into reaction mode. But, for Joe, talking about moving from the S quadrant to the B quadrant, Joe, if you want to move to the B quadrant and you want to become a passive business owner where your business works because your business works, there's going to need to have things show up in your calendar that shows that that is a priority of yours. And you're going to have to determine what are those time blocks that you're going to dedicate to start moving towards the B quadrant. And for those of you that want to run a lifestyle business, you can benefit from doing the same thing with your business. You can identify what are the lifestyle activities that I want to be able to protect. What are the priorities of my life in terms of my faith, my family, my fitness, beginning to look at those as being rocks in your calendar, but then looking at your other open areas of time in 30-minute chunks, you can start to spend time working on your business while you're working in your business. And that's why we decided to do this 10 hours of the 30 days and the challenge is to help you to work on your business for 10 hours in a 30-day period of time. And if you can dedicate 10 hours to work on your business, not just in your business, you have the opportunity to make the refinements, to make the adjustments that are necessary to start helping your business to scale. So Jeff, in terms of your calendar, when you set out, you said you wanted to work Monday to Thursday, 10 hours a day for 4 days a week. How did you choose to prioritize the things that helped you to grow your business and to execute on your business goals and objectives?
It's funny. I was just talking to a guy last night that works for Oracle. He made 700 grand last year, and we were talking about time blocking. I'm like, did you have a Franklin planner when you were 18 years old, like 30 years ago? Do you remember A1, A2, B1, B2? It's like you prioritize and you get all the A's done first and the B's second. And I remember if I didn't finish it, I had to rewrite it. This is before computers. I have to rewrite it. It was such a pain to rewrite the same thing the next day of all the stuff you didn't complete. But when I was at running in Overflow, the direct mail company, I remember I made a conscious decision to look at every hour of the day and just make sure I was focused on revenue producing things. And I got to the point, the year that I made $4 million, I divide that by 2,080 hours. And I'm like, I'm making $2,000 an hour. So what did I do the last hour, right? Did I sit by the water cooler and talk to someone? I mean, I just got so like focused on my time. And I don't care if it's $2,000 an hour or you make $100 an hour. If you can outsource it for 20 bucks an hour and you're doing the work, you're making a mistake. So I got to the point of like, hey, I told my assistant, is there any way I can delegate you going to the bathroom for me? Like, can you go to the bathroom? Because I want to stay on this call that produces revenue and I got to go to the bathroom. Or can you go work out for me? I got to work out 30 minutes every day. Can you please go do my workout and give me the results? Big joke, but it was true. I was so emphatic about making sure all my time was involved in driving revenue. Now, sometimes that involved designing new products or doing some new marketing to help the sales rep, make it easier for them to sell. So yeah, I spent time on marketing. I built some of the products to make them juicier, fatter margins, more repetitive, more repeat customers. So I was working on anything in the business that had to do with the revenue, anything that had to do with accounting, legal, HR, get me out of here. That makes me no money. Fixing problems. I hired people to fix problems. I hired assistants to do. I just got real focused on my time, and that made a big difference. I remember when we went from 10 million in sales to 20 million, we doubled. I swear it was because I focused my time on the most important things, which I don't know, for me was revenue. If you have a revenue goal and a profit goal, that's the most important thing in a business, so anyways, that's my take on that.
So the question is, where are you going to spend your time? Over the next 30 days, is there an opportunity where you can begin to go in and schedule an appointment with yourself to work on your business, to work on your business plan, to work on your revenue opportunities, to go spend time on your marketing? We've got these 2 hours every week on Wednesdays that are going to be dedicated to learning and to working through the principles. And that may be all that you have time to give up right now. But if you are not spending time working on high leverage activities like Jeff just talked about, those are the high payoff activities, you're not going to grow your business at the same level that if you do those things. So make the commitment now and say, I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to do all I can do. If all you have right now is 10 hours a month, 2 hours a week to dedicate, then that's all you can do. But do all you can do for 30 days. And what'll happen is you'll start proving it to yourself. You have more time than you think you have. Many entrepreneurs say, I couldn't do one more thing. And I said, and I would just say this to you, Augustine, because I'm looking at you, but Augustine, if I was going to pay you $100,000 extra per year, if you did this one thing a day, would you find time to do it? And because there's $100,000 attached to it, it's valuable. Augustine would say, possibly.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, maybe not even possibly. Absolutely. What is it that you can do? Well, that one thing is the thing that can grow your revenue by $100,000. But because you don't have any time, you have a full plate. There's no room on your plate. There's no margin. You don't have the ideas, or you don't have the time to discover those ideas that are going to add that extra $100,000. So you basically have just stayed in the rat race. You've just stayed on the virtual treadmill, if you will, and you just continue to stay on that treadmill, and you're not going to see any progress. You're going to stay in this yo-yo cycle of growth and then decline, growth and then decline. And you're never really going to see the sustainable, predictable growth that we're talking about until you dedicate the time to work on high payoff activities. So take just the next 60 seconds and look into your calendar and say, where can I find some time? What can I delete? Can you delete out something that's maybe like a Netflix show? Can you delete out something that's just not a urgent or important activity? And could you replace that to working on your business or on something that you know is going to be revenue producing? I'm curious to know, just going around the room, Marshall, what is your most profitable activity? If you could just say the one thing that you know, when you do this one thing, the profit in your business or the revenue and sales and income goes up. What would you say that number one profitable activity is?
Meeting with clients.
Okay, meeting with clients. So the number one thing that you could do is scheduling more meetings with clients. Number one, right? So go into your calendar and find some time that you could do things a little bit better than the way that you have been doing them. And you may be doing them extraordinarily well, but find time in your calendar to put more time into that activity, and you will get a bigger return on this 30-day challenge. How about you, Joe? What's the one thing that you can do?
For me, it's more referral partners.
More referral partners. So do you have dedicated time in your calendar already for building those referral relationships and adding new relationships, or getting more from the current relationships?
I do. It just needs to be with more consistency.
Yeah. I was speaking to a large group of salespeople the other day, and I asked the question, there was 2 days left in the month, and end of the month was important to them. And so I said, if I told you that I would pay you $1,000 for every person that you called in the next 48 hours and asked for a referral from that referral source, how many people could you call? Now, some of them may not be people that you've gotten referrals from, so you just have to start the process. But if you knew you were going to get $1,000 for every phone call, how many people would you call? Augustine, how many people would you call if you knew in the next 48 hours, if you got $1,000 for every person you called and asked for a referral from, whether they gave you one or not, how many people do you think that you can call in 48 hours?
Okay, I didn't do the math, so I'm just gonna say, I don't know, 50.
50. Okay, so 50.
No, well, I mean, if that would be like a lot more per hour, right? So I don't know, maybe 5 an hour. So 200. I mean, realistically, 250 would be a lot of people, but
Okay,
if 48 hours, probably, I don't know, 30 people.
okay, so let's just use the number 200. If you were to call 200 people and I gave you $1,000, that's $200,000. If you called 200 people and asked for a referral, how many referrals do you think that you would get from those 200 people?
At least,
Approximately
yeah, 5%. So
10?
yeah, about 5% of that.
So if you got 10 referrals and you sold 10 roofing contracts, approximate revenue on 10 roofing contracts, how much would that be?
50,000.
50,000 each or 50,000 total?
No, for total residential. Yeah.
Okay. So you'd generate $50,000 of increased revenue because you simply just made the time to call those 200 people and you got those 10 referrals. And where would be the potential repeat business or the referrals that would come from that repeat business? And you could see where that $200,000 comes from, right? The whole idea of me paying you $1,000 a phone call is to give you the idea that it was worth your time. But most people don't spend the time to think about doing the things that are profitable because there's no guarantee that they're going to earn the income. But you're not going to grow to the dreams and the vision that you create inside of your business plan if you don't have that faith and that belief that you're going to be able to go out and do it. So let's jump in and talk a little bit about the financial scorecard. And Jeff's got to get going here in just a second. So I wanted to make sure that he covers that. But the thing about building a financial scorecard is to kind of make sure that you're on track to accomplishing the vision and the mission. So once you've clarified what your mission and vision is, now you come back and you break it down and you say, okay, what are the metrics? What are the things that we need to be able to track to confirm that we are having predictable success, or that we need to tweak things so that we have predictable success? Because we know that we're not doing something that's never been done before. We know that we're working off of proven business principles. We just have to execute on those proven principles. So Jeff, talk a little bit about where the financial scorecard played a role in your success in business, and how did you, because it's going to be different for businesses based upon the different styles of businesses. We've got financial planners, we've got mortgage brokers, we've got roofing contractors, and all different kinds of businesses that are watching this video. So they're going to be different metrics that they're going to follow, but give a little perspective on this.
You know, this morning I own this wedding venue and we did 68 weddings last year for $1.1 million in revenue. We had 60% gross margin. So it was a pretty profitable deal, but I'm trying to get to 2 million. I got to get 100 weddings. I want to take my average wedding from 18,000 to 20,000. So I've got these goals that I'm working on, like obsessively focusing on, you know, and I talked to a guy this morning for an hour that was in Temecula and he moved to Texas. They own 70 wedding venues and they did 9,000 weddings last year. And like 1,000 of them were in Temecula, my area. So I'm like, God, I did 68. I can't get to 100. I mean, I only need 32 more to get to my goal. And this place is making money, and then I can, you know, move away from it. It's profitable, right? But I was talking to him. I'm like, how many leads did you get last year? And he said 240,000 leads. So I'm like, okay, 9,000 weddings divided by 240,000. Oh my God, he has a 4% close ratio. Guess what my close ratio is at Hawk Ranch? 4%. I'm like, it's identical. It's identical. And when I built the mortgage company, I remember one year I spent $2 million on direct mail. Let me think about this. And I think I spent $3 million in direct mail, and my accountant was giving me a hard time. I can't believe you spent $3 million in advertising. Most companies spend like 30,000. Like, you're crazy. I'm like, Fred, look at the bottom line number. I spent 3 million. I made 3 million. You're the idiot. You're sitting here in your accounting office making 100 grand a year telling me what I'm doing wrong. I made $3 million. And then I talked to a friend of mine. He goes, Jeff, last year I spent $10 million on advertising. I'm like, dude, what did you make? I made 10 million. I'm like, holy crap. He has the same number, exactly what he spent on advertising is what he made. What am I doing? I should be spending more. And I just give those examples because one was this morning and one was 10 years ago, but setting a goal for revenue, and making sure that your salespeople aren't giving it away, or if you're duplicating yourself and someone else is selling, make sure they're not selling too cheap. Hold your margins. That's so crucial, right? Revenue, margins, manage your expenses and figure out what your bottom line is. And that's that reverse engineering of what's my goal, what's my revenue goal, how much do I want to make, and then work backwards on how to get there, with activity. So right now our leads went from 150 leads a month down to like 80 because the business is slowing down, weddings, money, interest rates, less people are getting. I have some outside forces that are working against me that I can't do anything about. So I'm working on some things, but I have this scorecard that says 100 weddings, 20 grand, $2 million, 60% margin is $1.2 million. Keep your expenses at 700,000 and you'll make 500 grand, right? If I'm making 500 grand a year and I don't do anything here, like besides the outside stuff, like I don't do weddings or work weddings, or I don't tour brides and I don't sell weddings. I'm just, building the plan and trying to hold people accountable to that plan. And there's some people drifting. There's some sheep out there, wandering away, and I'm trying to get them back in line or we're not going to hit the goal. Here's the goal. Here's what we need to do to get there. Where are we falling apart at, and go manage that. We got to go fix the leads. I just signed up to spend $3 grand a month on advertising to get more leads because we're not going to ever go without the leads. So it's just once you have the scorecard and the metrics, you can see where you're off, and then go focus on plugging that hole. We're off over here. Go hire someone. We're off over here. Reviews went bad. Get a better person. It's just, I don't know. The scorecard just tells you like everything you need to do and where you're lacking, because the numbers don't really lie. And I was shocked today to find out 9,000 weddings. It's the biggest wedding venue in the nation. He's the number 3 guy, VP of sales. And I got a chance to talk to him. It was cool for like an hour, studying the competition. I did a lot of that. There was direct mail companies doing 100 million in revenue, making 20 million a year. They were 10 times my size. I love talking to competitors of people who did it bigger, faster, better, because I don't have all the answers, man. I'm picking off from everyone else. I don't know if that answers your question or if I
That's great.
digress.
So once you've had a chance to collect, some of the important financial data that you would like to accomplish, and again, there's people out there that are visionaries, they don't have the data that can become part of the implementation. So that's where you can outsource to, accounting or bookkeeping and other types of financial coaches and advisors to help you with breaking down your finances. But it's important to know your numbers, right? What are your expenses? What are your income revenue opportunities, and where are the different revenues coming from? What are the percentages that are going here and there? And if you don't have these numbers dialed in, then you're going to get into some financial trouble. And that's the number one reasons of why, 9 out of 10 businesses aren't around in 10 years, because financial challenges and troubles. And some of that has to do with operator error and business owners just not paying attention to the numbers. So we built this simple financial scorecard for those businesses that are a little bit more simple in their approach. Maybe you don't have a large number of sales professionals or people that are working with inside your organization. And this is just a simple way of breaking down some metrics for a self-employed individual. If you put the information into the yellow boxes on the business goals tab in the business optimizer, it'll automatically figure out these numbers. You may need to adjust the numbers, or you may need to adjust some of the content to match up your personal business. And we can talk about that during our one-on-one time to help you to navigate that. But this is just a way for us to give some perspective to what do the numbers need to look like? What are the number of new paying clients that you need to generate? What are the number of leads and contacts? How many presentations? If your business is a different model than this, it's okay. You just need to know what are those metrics that you need to be measuring. We use this simple tool as a way to help people to understand simple concepts around basic scorecard activity. But for each individual business owner, they're going to have to finalize what their metrics are so that they can begin to track their own personal data. This is an advanced scorecard. So if you're an advanced organization and you have a larger staff, we can customize this scorecard to meet your personal needs. And this is where we can go in and really start breaking down all of the key metrics, all of the profit percentages and the margins to really start helping you to keep your eye on some of the most important numbers in your business growth opportunities. And Jeff can give you some more perspective on some of the things that he's done to grow those margins and grow those percentages. Jeff, you use this concept of tracking all of the sales people on your staff, and this is something that you've done when you've had dozens of sales professionals and when you've just had a few sales professional. Talk a little bit more about the value of having this data and how you do it all manually. It's not something that you do electronically or use some fancy computer. You just take feedback from the sales professionals and you put the data into a basic table, and that tells you some very important information. Talk about that as you wrap up.
Yeah, I'm just thinking when I had 30 loan officers and they were all doing 3 loans a month or 3.3, we were doing 100 loans a month. I think if I had 30 salespeople, I always had like 3 at the very bottom that were, I was spending, you know, $3,000 per salesperson on advertising. And if they were only closing like 1 out of 20 leads at 5% close ratio, they were costing me money. And then I had guys that were closing 20% of their leads and they were making me a ton of money. So I'm always watching the metrics on the sales team and just taking out the bottom, you know. I'd sit down and talk to them. Hey, your numbers kind of suck. You know, you closed 1 loan and I spent $3,000 and you got 20 incoming phone calls. You can't, you know, this doesn't work for the business. So you either need to step it up. You need some more training. You want to spend some time on training. I try to invest and train, but if they didn't move it, you know, there's usually I'm having personal problems, you know, my wife, my kids, and all kinds of excuses, but you're gone. I don't have time for personal problems. Like I'll help you to a certain level. So if you don't know how many leads your salespeople are getting and how many tours or quotes or presentations they're doing and what their closing ratio is, you have no idea whether your sales team's making you money or losing money. So I just big on metrics. And I know salespeople, good ones are typically competitive. They want to get to the top. So just by publishing the numbers every week and every month, they'd all be looking at it. Someone's at the bottom. Nobody wants to be on the bottom. Someone's at the top. I had a sales manager, a trainer come in. I think I was probably like 25 years old and I've got 30 salespeople. I'll never forget. He came in to train us and he said, Jeff, do you manage the people at the top? Like if you have 30 salespeople and 20% are at the top, 20% are at the bottom, and 60% are in the middle. He said, where do you spend your time? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Suppose you're going to tell me. You know, I mean, I like spending time with the top because they're really good and fun and positive and working hard. They're like me because everybody does. Nobody. And he says, I'm like, you probably work with the middle, right? He goes, nope. You always work at the bottom because if you work with the bottom and move them up, the whole flock, the middle section goes up. That's what he learned at IBM. And I'm like, well, that's pretty interesting. But I hate to work with the bottom feeders. I don't want to spend all my time with it. It wasn't fun, but man, working at the bottom and taking a few out, it scared the middle and it motivated the top people to everybody went up. So you get your best overall performance out of managing the bottom, take them out, manage them up, because everybody goes up. Nobody wants to be at the bottom. It was the funniest thing. Salespeople look at numbers. Nobody wants to be at the bottom. So promoting, you know, competition, you know, that was just part of the sales management game that a good sales manager knows. Hopefully they learned it if they've done it for a while.
Augustine has a question about, did you manage all of the loan officers with this spreadsheet or with a CRM system?
You know, I wasn't a real techie guy, so I just I was really good at Excel. So I built everything in Excel, and every week we'd turn in packets and they'd had to punch in their numbers into the spreadsheet. I got a little more complicated later where it's downloading from Salesforce, you know, how many calls they made, and then Tableau, putting a report together. We got a little more techie, but it was pretty manual because I wanted them to fill out their number personally, turn it in, and then have this report to show everyone. And I would do sales meetings, you know, there's Mary, there's Bob. And it was kind of embarrassing if you weren't doing your numbers. So it kind of put automatic pressure on them. So I didn't have to put pressure on them. That was just how I did it, more manual off Excel, you know.
Good. Well, in terms of pricing and margin, we're not going to go into great detail on this, but pricing and margins is a big part of why your business sold for such a high multiple. And just curious to know, if you were in business today, which you are, but if you were in business like these people that are joining us for this 30-day challenge, what would be the top 2 or 3 things that you would encourage them to look at as a possibility to increase their margins, add more value, and generate more profitability?
One thing that I did, let's say you're going to pay a salesperson 10%, and if you take that out of your profit, it makes it kind of tough, because you're going to make less profit, right? So I'm like, I'm going to raise prices 10%. I raised prices 10%. It paid for my whole sales team. I never lost a dime. But if you're going to raise prices 10% and all of your competition is a lot cheaper than you could hurt your ability to sell and keep customers. So I was working on the products. How do I differentiate myself from my competition? I added on 2 or 3 small products that cost me $100, but I had something that not a lot of other people had, so they paid a premium for it. I think my last year at Overflow, I had like 67% gross margins, which is insane. Most direct mail companies are running 30%. Costco runs on 10%. Why, one of the most valuable companies in the world, to their margins 10%. I'm like, how do you guys do it? Well, we did 100 million last month. We made 10 million. And we don't inventory anything, and we got a lot of employees, but they found a way to make it work. I never learned low margin, high volume businesses. I had to have higher margin. So I just raised prices 10% to pay the salesperson. So the sales team didn't really cost me much, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what I thought of. Adding, how do I differentiate the product? And that gets into marketing. Like when someone just said, I make more money when I'm meeting with clients. Well, if I send an email out to 500 people every month and I get 2 responses, if I rewrite the email and add a better offer, could I get 6 or 7 responses? Now I'm on the phone with more clients. So there is an aspect where I think you have to sit down and really look at your offer and tweak the marketing a little bit to make the offer a little better, get a better response, because that's an easy way to meet with more clients if the marketing works better. So I did, I worked on the marketing. I worked on the product. I worked on the sales. It wasn't all about, just sales. I mean, you got to give them something to sell, and always coming up with new stuff to keep the sales team kind of motivated with new, to make it a more positive environment. I'm always rolling out new products every quarter. Hey, here's what we're doing now. We can offer this. And it kept them excited and kept them to go back and get on the phone and try to use new products to close new customers. So products, marketing, sales, but majority sales.
Good. Well, that's all we had for today in terms of our business planning concept. We do have all of the content inside of the Scale University. All of the registered members for the 30-day challenge can have access to this particular course called Scale Your Business 2 to 10x in 3 to 5 years. And if you click on that, you can go in and you can read more detail about the business planning aspects of what we covered today. All of our recordings for the 30-day challenge will be posted down here, and then we've got plenty of other content that you can gain access to. So make sure you take a look at the different resources inside the platform if you're a paid participant in the challenge. And if you have not already registered, you can go to the growmyprofit.com website, click on events, and you can get more details on how to register for the challenge. So these are hopefully some of the questions that you got answered today. And if you didn't get those answered, it would be really important for you to schedule your one-on-one time with us so that we can talk to you more specifically. Remember, step 1 was assessing your capacity to scale. That recording is inside of the Scale University platform, so you can go back and watch that if you want to learn more about some of the things that we talked about in that previous session. But we hope that you gain some ideas, some strategies, and we hope that you take advantage of the free online business assessment so that we can schedule a time with you and have a one-on-one discussion on Zoom to really talk about your business challenges and opportunities and give you some more perspective on the vision and the mission and the planning and the pro forma, as well as the financial scorecard. So next week, we're going to be talking about marketing and lead generation, and Jeff's going to be sharing some of his strategies on how he was able to become one of the top direct mail companies in the country for mortgage professionals and home builders and a whole bunch of other car dealerships. using some of the things that he's crafted around creating a great offer and defining a really good target market, target audience, and a good list, and having a compelling offer and good timing and pricing and all those good things. So any questions, feedback, going around the room? Augustine, biggest takeaway from today? Anything that really stood out to you that made you think, you know what, this is an area I need to spend some time this next week?
Sure. So I'm over here taking notes like crazy. I think that one is just determining my revenue goal and really start backward engineering. That's one thing. And the other thing is writing down the processes. So I literally, while we were going through this meeting, I was jumping online on I was going through the different pages on the tabs at the bottom of the Excel sheet. And I wrote down some things that I need to do, like I said, so it would be just writing down the processes so I can go on to the next thing. And I set some time to work on it. So, yeah.
Very good.
I'm going to say something to Augustine, because when you said I got to make 250 phone calls in 48 hours and I get this check for 250 grand, right? Because I made the phone calls. I was thinking, it's the most important part. What are you going to do with the 250,000?
You
Like,
brought
that's got to be part of it, or else I ain't doing it, dude. That's hard. I mean, to make 5 calls an hour seems easy, but I ain't gonna do it. I'm just, we're all like lazy, I think, by nature, but something's got to motivate you to do it. So, writing down your income goal first, not revenue, income. I want to make $1 million a year. How much business do I have to do to make $1 million? Probably 5 million. You could probably net out 20% in your roofing business.
Yep.
Now, how do I get to 5 million? Okay, if it's $5,000 jobs, which sounded cheap, my roofing jobs out here in California are $30,000. So that could be a problem right there that we get in and fix. But you said, okay, residential, $5,000, maybe roof repairs, not doing a whole new roof's got to be 20 or 30 grand.
Yeah,
So we
another
can put that-
15,000 plus. Yeah.
So 15,000. So divide $5 million by 15,000. That's how many jobs you have to do for the year. And now how many salespeople do you need and how many leads to reverse engineer up into that number? And that's the goal. And then just we go to work on implementing that, right? How many people I have to hire? How many leads do I have to generate? There's a lot to that. It's not like, totally simple, but I don't like to overcomplicate. As soon as it gets overcomplicated, I'm out. Keep it simple for me. I manage like 10 things. I ain't managing 100. I don't have a scorecard with, pivot tables and 1,000 pieces of information. No, because that's like, it just gets too much. But
Yeah.
What's my income goal? What's my revenue goal? And then work backwards on how to get there and build that scorecard. At least you have it. Like whether you're going to do it or not, that might be like, that first year when I went from $1 million in sales, selling by myself, solopreneur by myself, that first year when I had to go 4 salespeople and do $2 million, it's a hard year. Because for 12 months, I got to pay some minimum wage based salaries. I'm taking a chunk out of the company that now I can't take out and live my life. But I remember thinking, hey, in 1 year, this is going to be different. 1 year, I'm going to have a business doing 2 million, making 400 grand a year, and I ain't doing it all. This is freedom, but I think it was about a year where it was like, it's a little painful, So, but it's not like a 5-year deal. Like it doesn't have to take that long, So anyways.
Joe, anything from you before Jeff takes off? Any feedback on
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a reminder. I mean, I think everybody can say they take time out to work, on their business, but for me, it's not to this level of detail. I think that worksheet that you guys put together is incredibly valuable, and I think just executing on that alone, if everyone on the call would just do that, that's life-changing.
good stuff? Marshall, how about you? Takeaways? You're on mute, Sam.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing for me is always understanding a vision. I think when you said starting with a life plan and building your business to fuel the life plan rather than starting with a business plan and then making everything in your life about the business is important, because I lose motivation really quickly when it was kind of like we were just talking about earlier. If I could make $250,000, yeah, but what am I going to do with it? I'm just going to sit on it to survive for a little while because I don't know what I'm trying to do. So that was helpful. And then the cash flow quadrant is a refresher, a reminder for me, but that does help narrow in on a vision of what type of life am I trying to build here. One that consumes my time, or one where I can leverage other people or leverage money. So
Yeah. And I know that you're more of a mission-minded guy, so, measuring profits and measuring metrics is probably not going to be the thing that inspires you. But if the mission is calling you, and the mission is to, fund mission-focused groups, or, focused on, expanding different opportunities in your faith or other things of that nature, now the profit has a purpose. And so now it's important because the profit's going to lead to the purpose, which is going to impact the people. And that in itself could be the thing that drives you to go do all the stuff that we just talked about with the financial scorecard. And you don't have to like doing it. You don't have to want to do it. You just have to do it. You have to be willing to do things that you don't like to do to get to where you want to go. And when you're self-employed, you don't have anybody that tells you that typically. Because you're the boss. You don't have to tell yourself that. So you do what you want to do rather than do what you have to do. And therefore you got what you got because that's all you've done. You've just done what you wanted to do, not necessarily what you had to do to grow the business. So our hope in the next 30 days is that you do the things that you don't want to do so you can become the person you've always wanted to be and have what you want to have and start to see the business on the growth trajectory. And then you can learn to enjoy doing things you don't love to do, because you're now seeing the results of what's coming from those things. And then you start realizing, man, there's a bunch of other things that I could go out there and take action on that would radically transform my future. So thanks everybody for participating in this session on business planning, and look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Take care, everybody.